Welcome to Beer N Bulldogs. This show is about responsible dog ownership, the history, and appreciation of the American Pit Bull Terrier. We do not promote or condone any illegal activities, including animal cruelty or dogfighting, which are not only unethical, but also violate the Animal Welfare Act of 1976. This is strictly for legal, ethical, historical, and entertainment purposes. Let's keep it positive and show these amazing dogs the respect they deserve. Cheers!
About to go down, so who's gonna be my dogs? Cause I'm about to break some laws. I ain't supposed to get in any trouble again. If I do, they gonna put me back in the pen. But you like to dodge my calls, so I'm about to break your jaw. I ain't scared of doing time, it ain't even on my mind at all. So who's gonna feed my dog?
Yo, it's Calypso from Beer N Bulldogs. If you're serious about your dogs, you need gear that's just as tough as they are. That's why I rock with Bulldog Strong. Built for strength, durability, and performance. Whether you're conditioning, training, or just taking a walk, their harnesses, collars, and leashes can handle the pressure. And when the work gets real, they got braking sticks to keep things under control. So don't settle for weak. Don't just be strong. Be Bulldog Strong. Yo, it's Calypso from Beer N Bulldogs. If you're serious about feeding your bulldogs right, working dogs, performance dogs, or just your everyday beast, I rock with Showtime 2720. It's been solid for mine. Now, you can't just order it online, but it's out there. Just hit that link in the description. Drop your zip code and find a dealer near you. And hey, if you pick up a bag or one of them dope ass hats, let them know Beer N Bulldog sent you.
So people come to my house and they ask me, do that dog bite? And I go, not me. I say, not me.
Hi, I'm probably not who you guys were expecting this time around, but I just wanted to make a little announcement for Beer N Bulldogs. If you would like to skip ahead to the actual interview, I will have the timestamp around here somewhere, so you can just go ahead and skip to that. But this is an important announcement for the show. For those of you who don't know, my name is Gabriel. I am the editor and producer of Beer N Bulldogs, also Calypso's son, and I am moving. We are not sure exactly how to continue the production all the way with where I'm going. Right now, my father here is in Nevada, and I'm moving with my mother in Utah. We are going to attempt to continue production with me being the editor and producer out there, but as of right now, we do not have the means to do so. So we are not sure how the production of Beer N Bulldogs is going to be going for at least a little while. But as of this moment, all I know for sure is this project will be my last. If there are more to come, they will be edited by and produced by someone else. I'm not sure yet. Maybe my father will do his own editing. But I just want to say it's been an honor to be involved in such a thing like this, being outside of my dad's dream to do anything involving bulldogs, as he's been taking care of some and working them out and doing all types of stuff that I'm not super knowledgeable in. I was never understood dogs, and I know a lot about bulldogs now, a lot about pit bulls. And it's been an honor to even speak to some of the people we've had interviewed in the past. And it will be an honor to come back to the show and meet people in the future. Just wanted to make this announcement because if there are any changes in the editing, how it looks, and how the show flows, it is probably going to be because of that. That I will not be here. But I want to thank you all for all the support. Yeah, I'll let you guys get back to the show.
Welcome to Beer N Bulldogs. I'm your host, Calypso, and this is the show where we talk about the game-bred American Pit Bull Terrier, working breeds, and all things Bulldogs. Over a cold one, of course. And today, we got a very special guest for you. Now, this man is definitely not new to dogs. He's been on the internet teaching some of you guys about the game for a long time. People have tried to send this man to no return, but he has came back unscathed. I can't say much more about him right now. Let's just go ahead and get into the show. We got Buck City from Buck City Kennels.
What up? What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What it do?
What up, Buck, man? How's it
You
going?
know how we do, man. Back in here. Beer and Bulldogs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's get it.
Hey, how's life been treating you, man?
Man, pretty good. Pretty good, man. I can't complain. You
Well,
know, they say if you on top of the ground and the ground ain't on top of you, you doing good.
that's right, man. Well, it's a treat every time Dog Man meets. So, I just wanted to know I just wanted to know some things about you, man. So, I got some questions for you.
Oh yeah, let them fly.
All right, well, let's take it back, man. Like when did you get your very first American Pit Bull Terrier? How old were you and what was that experience like?
I like to I got two different dates. You know, my first date comes when I was real young, like maybe early teens, maybe 12 or 13. And that was a dog that actually had American Pit Bull Terrier lineage from, one of my partner's dads was around these dogs for a long time since the 60s and years of, around those years. And I was able to acquire some of that blood, but I never was able to get the paperwork on the dog. No, it was always this fine line between, who has paperwork and who doesn't growing up. I know it probably wasn't much to some of the old timers that, the pioneers, but growing up, that was a thing in my city. It's like, do you got papers on your dog? Do you got this? So my first real paper one that I paid my money, shipped it from out of state, all of that, it was 1999. It was a bitch. She was a right off of Terrence Dudley. He's a half brother to Grand Champion Mayday. So that dog came directly off of Grand Champion Yellow with some more yellow and Patrick Bolio blood on it. And I ended up acquiring, not too long after that, I ended up acquiring a double bred grandson of Deadlift. So I was able to raise those dogs up, basically coming from the Red Boy Jocko side of things. Much different from the dogs that we knew growing up. I think there was more like Boomerang, Carver, different type of dogs. They had wild side dogs, dudes, had those dogs in the area. I had a guy had some Sorrel dogs in the area. And different bloodlines, but it wasn't really no Red Boy Jocko stuff like that in my area. And me and a good friend of mine, we went to school. We were like the young ones coming up in the pack. And we just kind of hit the scene with some of that Red Boy Jocko stuff and show people what those dogs were like.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Oh, well, out of all the breeds that are out there, man, of dogs you could have chose and maybe got yourself a Rottweiler or something else, man. What made
Right.
the American Pit Bull Terrier just stand out to you?
I think the tenacity and the drive, just I mean, it's undeniable. The things that those dogs are able to do. Just their whole drive, the mechanics, just the way that the dog is. I played football, growing up, so I really wasn't with a sport that wasn't contact. I love the contact sport. So I felt like those dogs better fit the personality and the person that I was eventually. And then you hear things like, people are kind of like their dog. Like you'll see a dude walking down the street with a Australian Shepherd or some shit, and you look at him, he kind of looks like an Australian
Yeah,
Shepherd,
I've seen
So
that
people, I
video.
think they resemble who their dog is, and it wasn't intentional. It's just, those are my dogs. That's my crew. Those are my brothers. Those are, when we come, it's a bunch of pit bulls right there. Dudes, you're not gonna be disrespected and things of that nature. So it just better fits my personality and character. So I think that's why I
Hey
really
man,
stuck with them.
I feel you so much on that, man. My wife showed me this picture one day. They have this picture with this pit bull that has like a little beard like mine going on.
Right.
They make a little joke and they say light skinned niggas got these light skinned niggas and they pit bulls or something like that. And it just looks just like my beard and everything. It's funny, man.
Right.
Um, well, could you tell us a little bit more about your first dog and what it was like dealing with your first?
Well, it's kind of a two thing, because it was a male and a female. Well, it was a female first. Her name was Payday. I knew she was a granddaughter. I mean, a niece to Mayday. So, and Mayday was real popular at the time. I'm in high school, coming up, and I wanted that dog. I remember I got into some little bit of trouble, so I was on probation, so I wasn't smoking no weed or nothing. Back then,
Yeah.
we would, taxes, different. It was a lot different than it is today. And I was able to save up enough money to buy her. My partner was telling me that to get this dog, like he was one of the guys that he was a little bit more into the pedigrees, back in the day. It still was kind of blurry to me, but he would send me stuff, emails, and different pedigrees and stuff. I would try to check them out, and then he ended up getting, and I was dragging. You know how when you're young, you want to spend this money. It's a lot of money. I actually didn't really make too many purchases, that high, especially for a dog, way back in the day. So he ended up buying her, and he brought her over. And once I saw her, I just fell in love right away. You know what I'm saying? She looked really weird, kind of like a Taco Bell dog, like a Chihuahua, kind of. She looked real weird. A lot of people, oh, this ain't no pit. This ain't, I went through that for months. Walking her through the neighborhood. This ain't no pit. That ain't no, because people weren't really used to seeing,
A real
that real authentic, dog that it didn't really have the heavy mass of muscle and all of that, more like a lean small. I think full grown, she probably would have been about a 30-pound dog at tops. She was real what people wasn't used to seeing. So when she was a baby, you could imagine how small she was. And just everywhere we went, this is my pit bull, she got papers, she's this, she's that. Nobody really knew what it was. Everybody, and that she was a Taco Bell dog. And then as she just got older, we just started noticing, like, wait a minute, you know what I'm saying? There's something to this, because we had dogs, and then she just started excelling at everything she did. She ended up being a really good guard dog for the property and stuff like that. I didn't train her for that or nothing. She just, that's what her characteristics were. That's what a lot of people remember her for. They wouldn't go up to the house, just because she'll definitely get after you if you're unidentified surfing around the property, you know what I'm saying? She'll definitely meet you, you know what I'm saying? So she was good just in every aspect. I didn't do no dog shows with her personally. I did some dog shows with some of her kids that I got. I bred the deadlift male that I had. He turned out to be a really good dog. I actually got him at like a year old. So he wasn't a little baby when I got him, but she was getting up there in age, and then I added him to the process. He turned out to be a really good dog, bred good. Still back then, you don't know what you got. You didn't know what you had, back then. I didn't even think that the dog game would even be what it is today, just how big it's gotten. I wouldn't say like on the magnitude is if we're talking about the Clash of the Titans of the early 90s or some of the dogs that you hear, going against each other. I wouldn't say that, it's like that. In that change in that aspect, like getting big in that aspect because of the landscape, but just overall the notoriety and I know these dogs and like we doing talking on Zoom, like this. I would have never knew that, we'll be doing this type of stuff. Or I knew that I would always have the dog because just when I was younger, I just knew that, I'm gonna have this dog forever. That's the love that I had for the dog, but I never knew that it would be this big. So it was a kind of crazy looking back at some of the stuff that I had just as a young teenager, and then looking at everything and, some of the greatest in the game, got pedigrees and stuff that are, matching up, looking on the same type of quality if we're looking at it that way,
Yeah. Well, besides that homeboy that you were talking about, were there any other dog men in your life that were around and you was
yeah. Actually, my whole like entourage turned into dog man, just from meeting guys with dogs, going to different dog shows and bumping shoulders, get a puppy from here, do a breed in here, I developed a real good network of guys that actually do a whole lot of other things, other than dogs, and they excelled at that stuff too. So I noticed that it was something that we all had in common, when it came to the dogs, like rather if it's real estate or whatever they're doing, like they excel over excel at all of those different things. So no, I developed a real good network of guys that just go all over, man, in the dog. I won't name none of them about out like that just on an interview, but it's been a lot of dog men that I've been able to bump shoulders with. I still talk to today, like a lot of them in my own state too.
Yeah,
that just like we've been knowing each other 30 years, been having dogs. We talking about the bloodline. Some of them still continuing them, some of them not. We talk about bloodlines that really don't exist anymore. We don't have anymore from different dogs. And them building, a couple guys been out the game 10, 15 years trying to get back in. I always talk to older cats. I'm 40s, but, cats in their 60s. A couple cats pushing 70, a lot of cats in their 50s. I was always one of the younger guys, in the circles that I was in. So, but it feels cool to be a little bit older now, you know what I'm saying, looking back at it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next was because you said there were some older guys probably pulling your collar a little bit.
Right.
Did you I don't know if you care to say any of their names either. Were any of them like considered mentors to you? And did they have anything that they may have told you that stuck with you all these years, man?
Yeah, man. Ratliff was a good mentor that I could say, he's not around no more. So I could use his name, for instance. John from Powerhouse was a real good mentor. He had a bunch of good dogs, a lot of good stories, and some stories I won't say, some controversial stuff about dogs and how they're bred and stuff. I don't really get into that. I think, people, if you got a good one, hold on to it. That's my philosophy. But just a lot of good dudes. You hear a lot of good things. I talked to, Mr. Burns was a good guy. I learned a lot from. I got a chance to talk to Brian Bailey, on a couple different occasions. First time I met him, I didn't even, we were chopping it up for hours before I even knew exactly who he was. You know what I'm saying? So I got to, just talk to him just on a, Beer N Bulldog level. You know what I'm saying? We just chopping it up. It wasn't really no itinerary or nothing that we was, really had subjects or nothing. Just chopping it up about just anything, and just developing yards. I was always privileged to know guys with big yards, to know how to buy in bulk and, different things like that. So I always kept guys with big yards. Coming from the city, I always kept in contact with dudes with big yards, because you can learn different methods on how to, what they're doing. I want to know what you guys are doing for the dogs, because you guys got more dogs, so you're seeing these problems and different things pop up more than anybody else. So I want to know what you're doing. I want to know how you're purchasing it. I want to know how you're storing it. I keep a whole bunch of people keep real tight in value.
Nice.
But Mr. Ratliff was a good guy. I actually purchased dogs from him. Mr. Burns, I actually purchased dogs from him, and then a lot of other guys, they still alive. So I won't name too many of those guys, but we definitely had anything from 95 all the way to now. I know where it was, where it was bred. I know, my knowledge, it kind of stays on it like 3-card Molly. You take your eyes off the cards, shit, you might not know what the fucking that shit is. You know what I'm saying? So there've been a certain bloodlines, the bloodlines that I like, and that goes to the, the testament or the claim to being a good breeder is you got to pay attention to a lot of shit. You got to pay attention to where these dogs are, how many of them are they, where do they go, and what the progress is. You got to know those things in order to make sure that you got the right stuff. If you blink and take your eye off it for 5 years or 2-3 years, you get back in, they probably changed hands. You don't know what happened. You don't know what traits they was looking for. It's a lot of things that you might not know, and that we don't really get into on some of these channels. It's got to come up organically. Just like what they say, hands-on experience. It's organic. It's the organic experience. You don't know what the hell you're gonna go outside and learn. You just get out there, put the boots on the ground and learn, as you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
Well, let's flip the script just a little bit, man.
Oh yeah.
Outside of the dogs, man, what's something that my audience would be surprised to learn about Buck City, man?
I ain't really much full of surprises, just a family man, just want to build and be there like a workhorse for my family. If they need me for anything, I'm gonna be the first one. I'm on the front line, straight up. I raised my sons to be the same way, protect their family, do, the morals of growing up, being a man, who you are, don't fall into these trends and things like that. Just the moral code about being a man, I live on that. I stand on that. But the family man type of thing, I did a lot of coaching in my community and things like that to help out, to give kids the right type of temperature, to compete. A good coach of mine, Slick Watts, used to play for the Sonics. He was actually my gym teacher when I was in elementary school, and we were playing sock'em or kickball, or we were playing something, dodgeball, and I did something, I cheated, right? And he came up to me I remember this. He came up to me. It was real stern. And he told me, he was like, never cheat. You know, I remember that. I probably was only 8 years old or 10 years old or something, you know, but, and I told him this. I told him a couple years ago, I was at an AAU game with my kids and I seen him there. You know, he got grandkids and stuff, you know, they doing real good in sports. And I told him, I was like, man, you was my gym teacher, man. Cause I tell my kids that all the time, but I was actually with them, actually seen him in public and saw him. And I told him, I was like, man, you told me a very valuable lesson, you know, never cheat, you know, and that sometimes them little things like that just stick with you. So I'm kind of old school with the traditional type of thing, you know, old school. And I just stand on family more. I mean, if they didn't know that, you know, maybe I don't talk about it enough on my channel, you know, about family values and everything. But maybe people already kind of knew that, though. I don't know. But I ain't really full of surprises, man. A big family guy, got a lot of family, you know, here and there, you know. Yeah. And if you're my friend, you know, you're my friend to the end. Not like Chucky, but, you know, like I ride for you, you know, thick and thin. You know, I got most of my friends, you know, they've been my friends for 20s of years, 20 years, 25 years. Yeah. 30, you know, like I keep it tight. We still tight. Talk every day. Guys I talk to, you know, them is 20-year relationships, 15. Even I got some good 5-year relationships, you know, that, you know, I didn't know them that long, but they just as good relationship, you know what I'm saying? So yes, I do. That's pretty much all about me, man. Ain't too many secrets though.
Okay. Well, Buck City, out of all the dogs that you've seen or had, who was your all-time favorite dog and why? You know, like what made that dog stand out?
All-time favorite. Like I said, I've seen a lot of dogs. I like to give a little bit more accolades to the dogs that I actually had my hands on sometimes too, though. Yeah. I know it's because other people could own a dog, but I think it's just that much more satisfaction when, like, I could drive my friend's car, you know, but it's more satisfaction if the car is mine, you know what I'm saying? Sure. So as far as on my yard, the best dog that I ever had, that's hard. You know, I had a dog named Freeway. You know, he was a real good dog. You know, he was in all the aspects, you know, he was a really good dog. He produced some real good dogs, you know. He was Red Boy Jocko. That's when I got into the Buck Dogs. That was my introduction to the Buck Dogs because one of my friends, when he turned me on to the Ratliffs and all those guys, he kind of turned me on to the Red Boy Jocko dogs that they had. And then I ended up wanting this other dog named I named him Freeway, but when I got that other dog, he had a little bit of buck in him, you know, like a quarter or something like that. And I noticed the difference between the dogs. So when it was time to get another dog at that point, I was already like, okay, let me try that buck stuff again. So I started, you know, trying those. That was probably either that for a male, and then there was a Walkamaw dog that I had. Her name was 19, and she was a really good dog. She actually changed. And I'll say it, you know, those guys. No, I heard when I told him about this litter that I had because one of my partners went down there. He used to mess on him real tough. He got a pair of these dogs, and I ended up with the pair. They both turned out so good. When I told them guys about it, they ended up repeating the breeding. And then when I tried to go back and get one off the repeat, had jacked the price up. You know, so at first, you know, these dogs going for like $600, $500, you know what I'm saying? And then I told them, hey, look at this. You know, you might want to take a look at this right here. And then when I try to double back, you know, they 1,000. You think like, oh, that wasn't nothing. Why did they do that? But at that time, I was so young and immature. I was like, wait a minute. Hell no, I'm not paying extra for that. You know what I'm saying? But I should have because I think that I'm not trying to insult them or anything, but I think that was one of the best breedings that they had ever put together, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I had a female off of that. Her name was 19, and she was a great dog. Those are two dogs that I didn't breed that I feel were the best dogs that I did not breed. Now, dogs that I did breed, or one of the best breedings I've done is when I put the Michael Myers dog on top of the Singing Bullet bitch. I talk about that breeding all the time. It's for many different reasons. Just the texture of the dog. I just loved every bit about him. The attitude from a young age all the way up. Everything about them, what they produced for me, how the genetics stayed true. I knew I was going to get every single time. I knew their temperament, everything. So I would probably put that as a breeding, that was probably my best. The historical, I saw Macho Buck. I ate dinner with Macho Buck. I got to pet him. I got to, I saw Grand Champion Snaps in real life. So, looking at these dogs, and you look at your dog, you're growing up. You're like, wait a minute, because I remember I had my first bitch, and then I saw Snaps months later. And I was like, I got a long fucking way to go. You know what I'm saying? Because you see this dog and he literally looks like a machine. Like literally. Like you know that this dog is a machine. And then your dog is cute. She got a little attitude. She chewing a little rag, but it's nothing compared to what the fuck this dog is over here. You know what I'm saying? So those are a couple historical dogs that I was able to see. I saw the Champion Graveyard dog. He was a good one. Direct son of Mayday. I had offspring off of him. I actually had a puppy off the first Macho Buck breeding, the first breeding that Macho Buck ever did. I had a litter mate off of that. And though that goes to a little bit of that history. And then probably, I say this a lot, probably the best male that I ever seen, though, in real life, though, he was off of Macho Buck's littermate sister, direct littermate sister, back to Burns Hot Dog. That right there, there was a dog that came out of that litter right there that I believe was the best that me personally that I saw. And, for various reasons, attitude, confirmation, he was just a good dog overall. So I can't pinpoint one thing, and I always break things into sections because I like to give merit to the dogs that I bred. I like to give merit to the dogs that I had but didn't breed. I like to give merit to the dogs that I saw along the path. So I like to break it up into sections with that question.
And you know what? And I was going to even just kind of get into that and just ask you if you were able to go back in time and
Right.
Pick any dog out of history. Any dog out of history that you could have been one you was reading about. What would that dog be if you could take that dog out of history and have it today?
Any dog out of history? Man, that's hard. That's hard because I'm gonna look at it like a chess move, right? See, when you move that chess piece, a lot of shit could happen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So, so that question, we get that all the time. And a lot of times I answered Yellow Buck.
Yellow Buck.
Because he was off Grand Champion Buck. Grand Champion Buck is probably one of my best dogs because I feel that for the few amount of times that he bred, I feel that he made a hell of an impact from that standpoint. Yeah, there's dogs that bred better than him. Yeah, there's dogs that got more of this, more of that, but they also bred more than him. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So then I'll take his mama is I think it's Awesome Baby. I think it's Buck and Awesome Baby. I think it's one of them dogs, but that would be the perfect distribution of the yellow blood. I think those dogs, when they came together, and we could look down history lane and whatever, and we can even go to the Mayday line with Dolly in the Bolio line. I still think that even Buck was probably the most successful out of the Bolio line on some levels. Dolly had a lot of success too with Mayday, but you can't deny with Macho Buck and all of those dogs, coming down off of that Buck line, and Buck having way fewer breedings than a lot of these dogs to be able to accomplish what he did. I probably go with a yellow Buck to get that perfect blend of dogs. And it's all in the same family, Mayday family. If you were breeding those dogs, the Mayday dogs, you wouldn't be, you just be line breeding pretty much,
Yeah.
So.
Well, earlier you said you was you're a family man, but I was just gonna say when you're not dealing with the dogs, man, what does a typical day look like for you, man?
Man, well, I got my little dude. He's gonna be going to school in the fall because my last two, they didn't do the daycare thing. I raised them up that way I could, keep my eyes on them and just make sure they stay out of harm's way. So they didn't do the daycare thing. I mess with the kid, do different things. I got the magazine coming up. As you can see, the magazine right there on the screen. I ain't got it too close, so you can't. They're too good, but we just dropped number 2 will be out in a couple days. Nice. We just working, man. We working and just family. That's it.
That's
just trying to get some more stuff going. I got other projects that I do. I like to dabble and dabble with real estate and different things like that, and all my old people that I chop it up with on the phone. But average day, I'm waking up. I do my podcast, the Wake and Bake, Buck City Reloaded. I might jump on there for a couple hours or something just to get the day going, burn something, and then just see what the day brings and just execute. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that's pretty much it.
So for my audience, man, could you maybe, tell them how much goes into, working dogs and maintaining a good yard?
You said how much goes into it?
Yeah, maybe you can give them a little something to understand to that.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. It depends on what you want to do. It depends on what you're into it for. Now, if you have a nice size yard, it's going to be a lot of dedication and stuff that goes along into it. Some people, they could decorate an apartment with secondhand furniture and shit that they found, and the dog down the street, and but if you're trying to build something significant, I think that it's going to take a whole lot of it take money too. I mean, yeah, you could get lucky, but at some point, it's going to take some money, to do that and to maintain and to buy the right stock. And sometimes you might get some dog in there and they're really not what they're supposed to be. So what do? Do you keep those dogs and risk low quality animals for the next 10 years, or address that situation right away? And some people don't have that threshold to say, you know what, these dogs aren't working for this bloodline. It's not working for me. Let me either trade those pieces in for something else that probably works a little bit better with the dogs that I got, that I can surround them around, or they just kind of get into their feelings, or they're worried about the money that they're spending, and it makes them lose sight of the most important thing, and that's to create good dogs and to create, a family of dogs, if that's what you're into.
Yeah.
Some people just want a dog. Like my partner, he been out the game. Well, he still got a dog. His girl took it from him, won't let him breed it. Bitch is about 8 years old, bred off really good dogs. He's just gonna buy a dog, a male dog, just in case maybe if somebody wants to breed to him one day. He doesn't have any aspirations on furthering his dog program or his thing. He's gonna buy the dog for nostalgia. If any one of the homies want to breed to him, he's off a great dog, mind you. He and tried to find the best one he could find. And I think he did that. So he'll just have it for that. So for him, the maintenance ain't gonna be that much. What do they do? Eat a bag, 4 bags a year? You know, I did a study. I got the data. I bought a puppy and I bought a bag of dog food. And by the time that puppy was a year old, I wasn't even done with the 4th bag. You see what I'm saying? So it's very easy to maintain, you know, if we're looking at it from that aspect, just a dog or 2. But if you're trying to do something big and you want people to respect your program, and you want, if you're selling puppies, if you want people to actually buy your shit, then you're going to have something that people want. And, you know, that's just goes with business. That goes with promotion. It goes with everything else. And sometimes promotion is word of mouth. You know, that's what I asked you in a survey. How did you find out about us? Was it online? Was it through a friend? Was it a goddamn billboard? You know, how was it? So promotion is word of mouth sometimes, and somebody telling somebody else that you got good dogs. But it takes time. I see a lot of dudes these days, you know, they trying to breed dogs super quick and get through the generations fast. Because we talk about how many generations does it take to have your own bloodline, and they try to rush through it. You know, I think it takes time. This is a thing that you got to be chosen. You know, if you're chosen to be able to have a lineage that people say, hey, you know what, I want that, you know, then I guess that's just the gift that you got. And I think it's got a lot to do with the character of the person. If you're a breeder, or if you're having these dogs, I think you'll do the same if you collected cars, or if you were a womanizer, you love pretty women. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're going to have. You're going to have a whole bunch of them because that's your style. That's your taste. So some people got a high palate for the best dogs in the world. And some people just will get a dog and it's just like, well, fuck, let me just name him and let me grow him up. Oh, he's ready to breed. Let me just breed with something else without putting any thought into it. To me, that's not a way to build a sustainable program if you want to be on that level. Now, if you just want a dog in your backyard, like my partner, you want something 60 pounds that barks if somebody pull up to his house. You know, he had a burglary, you know, maybe a year ago. So he wants something in that backyard just to make sure that if somebody pull up, his motion go off and the dog bark. That's all he wants it for. So I think he got their own mission of what they're in it for. You know, if you tell everybody when they walk into the room to write down 5 what they want out of this dog game, it's all going to be different. But if you tell everybody what yours, then it's going to be different, you know. So stay focused on what your intentions are and what you want to do with the dogs. And I think that's when you start to grow. Yeah. You're worried about everybody else, because I had to do that. I was listening to so many people. I could have did what I've done 5 times. You wasn't listening to guys the first 10 years, you know, of building. You know, you're listening to these guys. They say it's not quality. They say this. You got to focus on what you're doing and your mission. And if you like the dog, old dog man told me, if you like him, he's worth breeding. You know, that's when people ask that question, like, well, how do you know if it's worth breeding? If you like the dog, it's worth breeding, and it will become a collection that you like. You know, like I like collecting fucking champagne bottles and shit, and you know, different things. Yeah. You know, your collection of shit is gonna be the things that you like, just like your yard. That's what it should be.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I would say something you did say earlier, though, about when you got to see, you know, some dogs. Right. So I do always try to tell some people that I know, man, you should go check out the shows. So, you know, if ADBA or whoever, or, you know, is doing a show, maybe they should go check it out, because they may see something and be like, man, you know what, I want a dog that'll run up that wall or treadmill. Okay, well, Buck City, this is the part of the show that we call Quick Fire Questions.
Oh, shit.
This is where I ask you one or the other, or you could choose both, but you Just go ahead and let me know how you feel about it, man. So let's say treadmill or carpet mill.
Treadmill.
All right.
Slap mill. Mill.
Slap mill, yeah. So
Slap mill.
You care to say why?
A carpet mill, if you use it too much, you leave your dog on there, you can burn out his kidneys, you know? And I just believe that carpet mill is more for strength. So if you're strength training, I think a carpet mill, short intervals, you know, carpet mill type of thing. But a slap mill, now that thing can do different things. You know, you can get your dog walking on that thing real good at a good steady pace. You can get them trotting on it. You can get them running at it, blowing out on it. It has various functions, in my opinion, more than because it's free spinning, it's free running, you know, and even a little puppy can walk on it versus, you know, a carpet mill, depending on how it is or the quality of it. You know, I had a couple shitty ones. Depending on the quality of it, you know, it might not be easy for maybe just a puppy to just walk on, right? You would always kind of have to be grinding and trying to get at it, you know, versus a free running meal that you can just walk on. You know, I've had dogs 2 hours on a free running meal, you know, like it's nothing. You know, they just walk. They ain't even running. They ain't even breathing hard or nothing. They just walk, you know, and that right there can simulate a lot of good things, you know, for your dog. So I'm gonna go with the even though they triple the price, I'm gonna go with the slap.
Okay. How about collar or harness?
Collar.
You care to share why you said collar? You sound like you said collar.
If harness is it's a hassle. It's a hassle. I think it's a hassle. I think you got more control over the dog with the collar. So, I think, you know, I've had big dogs. I've had big dogs before. I've had 70-pound dogs. I've had, you know, if you slip and you put on a harness, I think the dog has more. I think he can pull you harder with the harness, you know, in my opinion. But if we're looking at working, if we're working the dog, I'm gonna use both. If I'm gonna do drag weights, I'm gonna use the harness, right? If I'm just walking them and I got them on the bike, I'm gonna use the collar, right?
Yeah.
Or if I'm just walking them down the street, just regular, you know, I'm gonna use a collar. If I got them on the chain, I'm gonna use a collar, right?
Right. So
a harness would be more of a special occasion, more than everyday use for me, you know. Now, some people just use harness and then that's it, that's all be all. But a harness would be more like a special occasion if I'm swimming, if I'm doing, you know, some weight pulling, you know, if he's doing any type of drag weights or anything where he needs to have the weight distributed, you know, equally on his body versus, you know, on his neck. But it's just more situations I use the collar. I just say collar.
Okay. How about mouth or game?
They game dogs, so I'm gonna go with game.
Okay. Sounds right.
I'm gonna go with game. Just because I think it's harder to get game than it is to get mouth. And you can a game dog. Yeah, I just think a game dog is just gonna be better for you because in the breeding aspect, it's better for a foundation of dogs, good game dogs that actually are trying to do what they're supposed to do, rather than just a hard biting dog that is not gonna last long. I mean, you're gonna be hanging it up faster than ever if you go the other way around. So I think go with the game, let the mouth come to you, rather than get the mouth and then try to chase the game. I think it'll be a lot easier if you go game first. So I'm gonna go with game.
I like that, man. I like what you just said. Okay, kibble or raw?
Kibble. Yeah. Well, and it's two different things. If I'm conditioning them, well, let me see. Let me put this right. I'm gonna go with kibble because I don't really feed my dogs raw. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll feed them fresh food. I'll cook, I'll boil chicken breast, chicken quarters, strip the meat off the bone, things like that. But I don't always feed my dogs raw. I don't always, because I think it can get some diseases and shit coming around. You know, a lot of parasites, a lot of things, you know, that you can get, like those chicken quarters. When people give them to him in the chain spot, what does the dog? First thing the dog do when he put it in his mouth?
Throw it on
What's the first thing he does?
Throw it on the floor or something. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't like my dogs eating off the floor. That's one of my secrets. I don't like my dogs eating off the floor. I like them eating out of a clean bowl or nothing else. I don't want them hunting on the ground for food and shit, because I think that's where the worms, that's where the hookworms, that's where a lot of those worms and stuff go, you know?
Yeah.
And if they're eating off that same surface, then it's gonna make them more, their immune system, and you know, it's gonna be breaking down more, so they're gonna be subject to get those type of parasites. So I don't really use, if I'm gonna do raw, I'm gonna cook it. You know, I'm gonna cook sweet potatoes. I'm gonna cook some spinach. I'm gonna cook carrots. I'm gonna cook up some, you know, different things, fish, different, you know, the chicken, liver, different things. But I'm gonna at least put a little bit of heat on it to kill the parasites and to make sure, because even if you're talking about the old days when they was doing competitions, that's the last thing you want is your dog. You're working your dog. You're having a really good keep. And then next thing you know, you got 2 weeks to go and your dog is full of parasites. You know what I'm saying? From you eating raw and all that. So some people do. Hey, you know, it is what it is. But I'm going to go with kibble if it's versus raw.
All right.
For sure.
Chain setup or kennel run?
Perfect world. I like a chain setup. I think it's more economic. You know, I can get probably 4, 5, 6 chain setups for the price of a kennel. Easy. You know, maybe 8 chain spots for the price of 1 10x10, you know, or 5x10 with some bricks, or if we put it on some pallets or deck boards or whatever that cost, we can cut that price down, way down. I do like kennels too, for moms that are nursing pups. I think kennels are good. I think for a mom that just got off of nursing pups, I think the kennel's good. You know, for dogs that are really bad on the chain, that's when the kennel's gonna come good in. So I think a healthy yard's got both.
Yeah.
You know, he's got some breeding area. He's got kennels. He's got some couple chain spots for some knuckleheads, you know, and he's got a place where he can put dogs away. I would say solitary confinement, but the tree huggers are gonna come. They're gonna come get me for that. But dogs, you know, they do better when they don't the dogs. You know, when they're not watching other dogs jump around, they actually do 10 times better with their attitude and not keeping up a whole bunch of nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what's up.
How about tug of war or fetch?
See, they're good ones. Now, if this was Drink Champs, I'd be drunk because tug of war is probably the more it's probably easier to do. More people can probably get into that right away. If you don't have a yard, if you don't have a big field that you can take your dog to sleep. Me and my brother, I had a ball, tennis ball, and I had this bitch. She was on one of those big 20-foot horse leads, and it was a wet day. So the horse lead was dragging in the grass, and it was, building up a little bit of weight. And so it's hook collar, and me and my brothers just threw the ball maybe 25 yards or 30 yards or something. We're just catching it. He would just run from him and back, running, like that was a perfect situation right there. We had her going uphill, downhill. She was running downstairs, upstairs, you know what I'm saying? It was crazy what she would do for that. So I like that, but just a regular tug of war, you could just go out there if your dog's on the chain or whatever. I think it's just a lot easier. But both of them would be great for your dog, both of them.
Okay, I'll go with both on that for you, man.
Yeah, I'll be drinking on that
one. How about road work or hiking?
Man, I'll say road work, only because it's kind of hard, because I like to break my road work down into mileage. So if I'm let's say I'm going 7 to 12 miles, I'm good. Or if I got a dog that can't do that, I'm probably in trouble. It's probably a dog that doesn't have, that extra gear, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm getting my 7 to 12 in, I can kind of mark that down. You could do that, but it'll just be harder for me to monitor if this dog had a good workout or not. You know what I'm saying? Versus I can get my 7 to 12 on a bike. But I'm not riding a bike on a hike. So who knows? I might be more gassed out, before him. You know what I'm saying? On a good trail. I might be more gassed out before the dog or something. So maybe I might not get as good a workout in as, if I drive down here to the beach or whatever. I remember I used to take my dog to a beach. It had a 2.5 mile loop. So I used to take it around there on a light day 3 times. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I would do. It's already in my head. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I would know that, and it would be easy for me to track the progression versus trying the hike. But it's interesting, man. I ain't never did a hike for conditioning a dog on that level. I took my dog on a hike before, but it wasn't like a consistent thing to where I'm going to do this hike every single day. Like I was going down there to that 2.5 mile loop. I was doing that almost every day unless we rested. Yeah. So I'm going to say hike, but I'm going to say road work, but I could see some benefits with the trail too, though.
Okay.
The hike.
Okay. So looking down the road, man, what kind of legacy do you and Buck City Kennels hope to leave behind on the APBT world?
Just simple pedigree recognition, man. That's all, man. I want people to be able to see, because when you look at a pedigree, it's kind of like a story. And if it's not, then you just need to be looking at them more. Maybe you should look at more pedigrees every single day and go actually put your hands on these dogs and see what they're all about. But I want people to, because I look at a pedigree and there's some of that pedigree that I'll absolutely respect, and then there be little parts in there. It's like, I like the way this dog is bred, but it's got this little quarter of this down there at the bottom. I don't really like that. I want people to see my shit and be like, oh fuck yeah, I want more of that. I want more of that in there, or if it's predominantly that, they're like, oh yeah, I want that. That's That's kind of one. Because that's what old timers and even the guys that ain't here no more. We talk about those dogs to this day, and they probably didn't think it was going to be like that. I'll be satisfied with that. I don't need nothing bigger than that. Just kind of put a little imprint on the game. I mean, I was a breeder. I'm not gonna say, 20 years from now that dogs ain't nowhere, nobody respects my shit, now all of a sudden I ain't no breeder. Nah, motherfucker. You was a breeder, dog. So
Yeah.
your shit should be as good as these other motherfuckers shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of puts you to the fire. Some dudes, might not be ready to wear those shoes, but I'm always ready, man. So I feel like whatever I'm putting together is gonna be good dogs. It's gonna be sustainable. People gonna be able to take those dogs, use them, and rather if they're hunting with them or conformation or whatever they're doing, and people can respect the body of work. Like those are good dogs. Those rather if they paid a lot of money for them or whatever the fuck it is, you can say that those are dogs, and I think that's for a legacy in the dogs. I think that's good.
Oh, that it, man. You know what? And I think I feel it a lot more today. A lot of people say, "Hey, man, it's a good dog breed with this good dog," but and I'm not against that. I just wanted to say, when you're looking at pedigrees, man. I was watching I start thinking about us as people and our family trees and stuff like that.
Right.
What that means. And Samuel L. Jackson, he was on this video I was watching, and he started looking up his family line and found out that he was from a tribe of a tribe of people out in Africa. And
Right.
and he went out there, met with the tribe of people, and they actually like inducted him back in, like,
Mm.
yo, you are from, this is where you are from. And he get to learn
Right.
about his culture and things like that, what type of people they were, because not every black person is the same. They come from
Right.
different tribes, just like a lot of
Right.
white people. They're not the same. They come from
Right.
different
Right.
places and stuff like that. And so he got to learn about his people, which a lot of us brothers don't know about our people in Africa. We just be like, oh, we just black. So it was just good for him to find out about who he was. And it's just good to when you're dealing with that and learning about your family of dogs, you get to learn what your dog was, what made it special, you know what I'm saying? Or else you just have a dog.
Right.
You just
Exactly.
got a pit bull.
Yeah. No. Definitely. And that's it. You don't even know the parents. I used to talk about my brother all the time. We never see eye to eye. Most people don't. And he'd get these dogs and he like them. He talking about them. And I say, like, bro, you don't even know your dog's parents. Like, what are their names? What's his grandparents' name? Like, what are we talking about right now? I'm talking about history. I'm talking about I can trace my dogs back to the 1800s. That means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot. That you got these bloodlines, and even if you don't know what they did way back in the day with faking papers and all that crap, we don't know. But
Yeah.
at least we know when we get the dogs that we track in the pedigrees, we know the parents or the grandparents at least, And to
You know
me,
what?
that's more than a lot of like.
And I have a feeling that, as technology keeps growing, we'll be able to do a blood test and find it probably exactly where they come from. It'll be like, it'll just pop up like on ancestry.com or something one day.
If that code's in there, it depends on what they see on them codes. I never really believed in the DNA thing. It's starting to be more realistic now. Now I see how technology works and things like that. But I used to always think like if they, like when they were solving those murders and stuff, with DNA, like I used to be like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
But I guess there are codes that you can see when you look up under the microscope or however they look at it, you can see different codes and they can decipher the difference to tell, luck with that.
Hey, so Buck City, if you could clear up one myth or misunderstanding about the breed right now, what would it be, man?
Ooh, one myth about the breed.
Or it could be a misunderstanding, that you guys, no.
Well, yeah, well, the misunderstanding. I mean, we are already behind the eight ball. I think people in the APBT community have done an image, and people that are on the outside looking in, let's say with the bullies and stuff, with those different type of dogs with the cut, all the cut and the mutts, um, are doing. I just saw another video, a bully chasing a guy down and biting him, and he had to tackle the dog. These dogs, they're getting out, and then they're automatically saying it's the pit bull guy. But the guys that I met with the pit bulls were the most discreet, respectful guys that they have these dogs for the pit bull guys to catch that extra heat when we didn't even need that. We already had our own heat going on. You know what I'm saying? When they're trying to clean up all the gambling and all that goes on with the dogs. So honestly, we didn't even need the extra heat from all these other breeds that are just bite people. So I think it's a misconception about who these dogs are and what their natural personalities and different things. When we talk about putting them on chains, people, they don't like that. But, you see all these other type of hunting dogs and stuff, they're on chains. They don't get messed with, So I guess everybody that got a pit bull is a dog fighter, and, they gamble, or they got drugs, you're a drug dealer, you got a pit bull. So it's a lot of misconception. I know a lot of guys that had bulls. I knew some drug dealers that had pit bulls, but it wasn't a correlation between the two, and I think that's a big misconception about the dogs.
They have pit bulls, but they weren't good for nothing, just sitting around.
Yeah, it's not a guy that got these dogs, they're just regular guys, regular working guy. A regular guy that goes home, goes to work, they meet up, they talk dogs, and they got dogs, you got something in common. It was very rare. Just like that's why I love these groups, and the Buck City Reloaded and everything we've been able to do, the whole family that we've been able to create this whole sector, because I actually on a regular basis for the first time in my whole life can every day communicate and talk to Bulldog guys like me. It'll be years before you meet somebody that knows the dogs. Somebody I'd be like, what kind of dogs you got? And he'd be like, oh, we got some Jeep. Like that'll be years before somebody say that. Jeep, what? You know what I'm saying? What? I got some Rambo. Oh, do you? Oh, yeah. It's like, crazy, And so we're bringing it together, even though we're a small community. We're knocking on doors, and we're bringing everybody out to the forefront, and we're able to hear more stories and more things like that. I like to get into the law enforcement about it, though. That's my thing. I'm like I wouldn't say like a crusader, no shit like that. But my fight is against kind of the justice system and the way they do people that don't have a voice. Like they'll do you if you don't have a voice. If you can't control your own narrative, you're done. Ain't nobody they don't believe you. So,
and I just saw
being able to get your voice out there. Now, go ahead.
I just saw that with Jaheim, man. I just
right. You see that?
Man, I felt bad for the brother, but like he said, he was like, "Yo, it's all right. I don't even want your guys' apology." And
guys that threw him under the bus, and we ain't even go. They throw
like,
you under the bus.
All the stuff you guys just said about me. Now people are thinking I'm this way, and now y'all apologizing to me, and I'm like, I don't want your apology. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. You know what? Because God got me. What, Buck? Since you said that, let's get into some real talk, man. let's talk about that dog on your shirt right there, man.
Oh man,
His name rings in the APBT community. Michael Myers.
yeah, man. That's the
Tell us
that's
about
the
him, man.
modern
Tell us
day
about his
that's the
style,
modern day Bolio, man. He's the modern day Bolio.
man.
You know, um, it's you wiggle the strains they wiggle and you never know where they're gonna go. Just like the one TV show where they drop the ball at the top and
Yeah,
it just goes around. You don't want it to hit the million because that's gonna knock your million off. You want it to go to like something low. You never know where the strains are gonna go. But when they end up in your yard, and it was 20 years of me being in the game, 20 years being around dogs for me to be able to come across, for one, recognize, because you have these opportunities, but sometimes you don't seize the opportunity, right?
yeah,
So being in the right position, and I'm always the guy that everything happens for a reason, everything, you can look at all the birthdays, you can look at everything,
yeah.
uh, and everything adds up. I don't want to get into it, but I got my thing in the background, the magazine. I did a spread on Secretariat. Michael Myers was born on the same day Secretariat was born. You know what I'm saying? Not the same year, same day as Secretariat. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
And
like
some
you, man.
people,
Ain't
some
them
people don't
coincidences?
believe in stars, though. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. If you don't believe in stars, you don't believe that things line up perfectly, and you just think it's just a coincidence that you got these dogs. You go look in your yard. Sometimes you got to look into it a little bit more. I'm a firm believer, a God-fearing man, that God don't make mistakes. Everything happens for a reason. My whole journey, me going through my court situation, everything, all of that shit, it was for a bigger cause, a bigger purpose. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have a magazine back then. We on volume 2, right?
Right, right.
So it put me in a whole better mindset. It seems like it's more of a traumatic experience to everybody else. That's not me. You got to know how it affects that person. And for me, it made me a person because now I know how slippery that slope is. You see what I'm saying? Now I know that you can't fuck around. You can't do this. You can't do that. And that's what I try to give back to the community, some of my experiences, and giving you to you the raw way so you could understand that it's not a game.
Yeah. Well, since you put it out there, man, being a man who's faced accusations, let's make sure, false accusations. Um, what's some things that you could probably share, like some smart ways for dog men to protect their yard and their reputation, man, especially in today's world where people just talk and they don't do research?
Well, um, get a lawyer, bro. I think if you're gonna have a yard, like we always say, get a kennel license, right? That's the first thing, right? It's always, get a kennel license or get some cages and get some cement, all of this shit, build your pen and shit. Get a lawyer, build a relationship with a lawyer, right? Because a lot of these lawyers are tree huggers, right? And if you wait until your case is all over the news and they're already tarnishing your reputation, and then you try to go seek counsel, at that point, you could get a good lawyer. But then again, you could get a motherfucker that ain't fucking with you either. He ain't really working for you, man.
Yeah.
He ain't really this. He ain't really that. Build a relationship with a law firm or a lawyer. I think that's a key ingredient to keeping your yard. Even if you got to retain them for 5,000 or whatever it is, 2,000. You paying him, he feels that, like, yeah, this is my guy. He probably, I guess they're supposed to put it away in a trust or, whatever they're supposed to do with your retainer. But, maybe some of them don't. Some of them spend that shit. Who knows? But at least you know that they're going to come to bat for you, right? And I think that's going to be key. And just knowing we got to treat yard visits like DUIs, right? Your lawyer will give you a card. He'll tell you that, you get pulled over for a DUI, what I'm saying? You need to talk to the lawyer. You're not doing a breathalyzer. You're not doing all this bullshit. Your lawyer will tell you that. If you got a lawyer on retainer, he'll tell you that. Like if they pull you over, you give them my number, call me. You're going to talk to my lawyer. You're going to come to my house. You're talking about you got a complaint for the dogs. Well, here's my lawyer's number. You call him and set up a time with him so that you can come back to my yard and investigate, right? Nice. I think that right there is you won't really notice it. It'd be one of those things that you ain't noticing, but that's going to put a layer of protection over you because it lets them know that they just can't come fuck with you like that.
Right.
This guy's going to fight back. This motherfucker got a lawyer. Oh, shit. I thought I was just going over there to take some dogs like it's real trendy for these animal control people to come take people's dogs and shit. It's starting to be like a souvenir. It's like a body, in the streets or something. We talking about the streets, the cold, wicked streets, that I hate to this day. I hate the streets now. I had a graduate yesterday. My son graduated from high school, my first son. I didn't get that opportunity. What I'm saying? I was thugging, So just to see the progress of the generations, But man, it's rough, man. It's rough. Hey, you got to get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As Malcolm X said, by any means. Well, Buck City, what's a little piece of advice you could give to someone who is new to the breed and wants to get a dog, but they don't know nothing about these dogs, but a little advice you could share with them before they got into the breed?
Make sure it's something you want to do. Always second guess it. When you first just getting in, make sure you dedicate it. If you plan on being good, you plan on lasting, because these dogs, they'll tap you out fast. They got many different thresholds. They got like a 2-year threshold. They got like a 5-year. I know some guys that are, they coming up on their 5-year button, and you got to stick it out. And then you got that 10-year mark to where they tap out. So always second guess it. If you're about to get a dog today, hey, wait a week. Wait a week. Don't just jump into it today. It's your first dog. Plan it out properly. Make sure that this is something that you want to do, because it comes with a lot of responsibility, owning these dogs. And you never know what that dog could turn out to be. And, that dog could get loose out of your yard and go to the neighbor's yard and harm their dog. Simple as that. And that's something that maybe your homeowner's insurance, I know they're going to drop your ass after they find out you got that pit bull jumping over the gate, but you might be fine. You got the homeowner's insurance and all that. Listen, just make sure you're ready and make sure you're dedicated and, do it for the right reasons. If you're going to be breeding and things like that, get your in, get your 10,000 hours in, study your pedigrees, learn the history about the dogs. Don't shy away from the bully sons and the, all of those old dogs and those old match reports and stuff. Don't shy away from that. Yeah. They try to say, oh, that's illegal. Nah, that shit's old literature that people have, just like anything else, study that shit so you can know what type of animals you're getting yourself into, because you might bring home something that can go 2 hours off the chain And if you got another dog in your yard, you know, that could be a casualty. You know, I've lost two dogs, both of them. You know, they get into a scrimmage on the backyard. You know, I get there, it's enough time to break them up and lose them both. You know, so and devastating. Some, you know, my Mount Rushmore. These dogs is on my Mount Rushmore to this day. One of them was a litter mate to the female that I said was the best female I ever had, and one of them was Big Freeway. You know, my best male. So,
and to what you was just saying, I just want to let my audience know, just because you love to breed, don't mean you have to be a breeder. Try to tell them that all the time, man.
Right.
Everybody wants
Right.
to be a breeder. I'm like, man, you just leave. Sometimes it's best to leave it to the breeders. If you just love the dog and want a dog that you know that you can go hunting with and stuff like that, just leave it to the breeders. There's some good breeders out there, and there's some terrible ones that I'm just
Yeah.
leave it to the
Oh,
real
definitely.
breeders.
That's definitely, you know, because there's always going to be somebody that we all like playing basketball, but everybody's not good. You know, like I'm not a basketball player. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, you know, at the end of the day. And so I'm gonna leave that to those guys. You know, I got dudes that could do that. You know, the breeding. Sometimes you're just a good guy, a showman. You know, you might be a guy that takes the dogs from the breeder and you show them to where you're showing dogs so good that you got guys from all over the country wanting to send you their dogs because they know that you're showing dogs. You're doing a good job, you know.
Yeah.
And another thing about breeding, how you really know that you're not a breeder is if your puppies are always dying. You're not a breeder. I just want to throw that in there. I'd be a little funny, little humorous moment or something, you know what I'm saying? Some dudes, you know, you keep looking at your pups and they dying and shit all the time. You're not a breeder.
Right.
A breeder, the breeder has good percentages with conformation dogs. He has, if you're using them for hunting, he should have good percentages, and he also should have good percentages of puppies that don't die.
Well, Buck, man, I really want to let you know, man, that I appreciate you coming on this show, man. We have a thing here we call Give a Dog a Bone. And it's sort of like give a man his flowers, a dog man his flowers. And I just want to give you, you know what I'm saying, your props, your respect, and everything that you do for the APBT community, man. And preserving the breed and bringing a light on it, where, like you said, guys come and we can have dog talk and stuff and check out your channel.
Right.
Which I'd like you to kind of say something about that, your channel, and if people just want to, get in contact with you and learn a little bit more about the dogs and watch that, or get in contact with you about some things and learn more about you. How can they do that?
Hey man, like I said, I'll shoot you a little clip with a little something they could get to my contacts, you know, my emails and everything.
Okay.
We got the magazine coming out. I want everybody to remember that. We got the APBT magazine. You know, this is a magazine for us, by us, you know what I'm saying? For, you know, that we can get our perspective out there. How they got all these other channels and they got all these other news outlets that they paint us in a negative light. So this is our chance to have a platform that we can share our story. You know, what really happened? What did the animal control really say? That's the outlet that we got. It's the back door. You know what I'm saying? So I got that. BUCKCITY Reloaded. That's my YouTube channel. We got over 40,000 subs over there. You know, we've been cooking plenty of content. You know, it's going to be plenty more content. I'm going to be promoting this magazine, you know, for the next month or so. So if you go over to the BUCKCITY Reloaded, you can find me over there. I got plenty of old videos, master classes. So everybody who's somebody I got to get you over there. But except for you, everybody that's somebody's has been on the Buck City channel. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, it has an impact on the Bulldog community. A lot of guys, you know, vetted really well. They really love the breed. They got these dogs. They doing breedings. They're keeping the game going. You know, they got motion, like they would say, you know, in the real world. So, man, Buck City Reloaded, man. Check me out.
Yes, sir.
You won't be disappointed, man. Just don't have some thick skin. And if you want to talk shit in the chat, just be willing to pop up and substantiate your argument. That's all I ask, gentlemen.
Yes,
don't do like some of these other custers do. You know, they'll get in the chat, they talk shit. I drop the link. Crickets. You feel me? Don't be like them.
Yeah. That's Kerr. That's Kerr stuff.
That part.
All right. Well, Buck, man, I don't really have an outro for this show. I just tell the people from Beer and Bulldogs till next time.
Hey, man, see you, man. Appreciate you for having me.
Yes.
All right, brother.
Cheers.